kind of a statement that I have. Maybe I'm erroneous in my thinking and making these statements when it comes up in conversation, but say, I'll see it in my church. There's a gentleman who acts much more feminine, and the church staff is going,
and he may not be. He may not be.
Why is the church saying that? And why are we calling feminine men gay or feminine boys gay and masculine girls lesbians when they're little? We've got to stop doing that.
Is that a question?
It's my statement.
I'm feeling intimidated.
But I may be erroneous in that, and if I'm
well, the fact is, look, the fact is, yeah, the fact is there is a correlation. Not 100%. Not 100%. But there is a correlation that more effeminate type men might deal with homosexuality, and more masculine women might be lesbian. Not 100%, but there is people tend to generalize, you know. And certainly the very effeminate little boy, if something is not done, again, 75% predictor that he might be. So again, we can't judge people. We don't know what people. I mean, I remember a man who was very effeminate, and I thought that any week he was going to tell me that he was dealing with homosexuality. Never. He was having marital problems. He loved his wife. He loved his kids. He was very effeminate, but he was heterosexual. So you can't always. This is not an exact science.
right. Are we doing a disservice?
Well, we might be doing a disservice. Yeah, we might be doing a disservice. Absolutely, especially for the boy, because if we start treating him that way, then he's going to internalize that. Oh, I must be. I can't tell you how many teenagers are coming to us that really have no homosexual problem, but they did something or engaged in something or experienced or felt something, and then when they told their teacher or their who knows who, oh, you're gay. No, you're gay, and it sticks, and that's a simple answer to this problem. So that could be a disservice. Yeah.
You had a question, John? Yeah, I was wondering if a young person has gay sex once, does that start a cycle of gender confusion that could go on for years?
Yes, it could, but not necessarily. Not necessarily. So it depends on how he was perceiving himself. It depends on how that event gets integrated into a self-identity. See, self-labeling, self-identification is a very important part of this. When what are you telling yourself? What is the statement you're telling yourself? When you remember the time that you were involved in that sexual experience when you were 12 years old, what were you telling yourself? And that often determines, you know, this is self-psychology, self-identification. Homosexuality is an identification problem. We said it's a gender identity problem, but more fundamentally, it's a identity problem. And gay is a false solution to an identity problem. Oh, I'm gay. Oh, so first I have a problem, and I solve the problem by giving it a lie. I superimpose a lie over the problem, and that solves the problem. And you expect the rest of the society to accept that. Otherwise, we're homophobic. This is crazy, right? Right.
One other thing. When you're doing your counseling sessions over time, do you find that there is a...
I'll bet you're a therapist. Are you a therapist? No. Okay.
Investment counselor.
Investment counselor.
Therapist, yeah.
Looks like I got some Ford stock. Should I sell? I just want to know. No, go ahead.
So when you're doing your counseling sessions,
yeah.
do you find that there is a common turning point in dealing with these young men struggling with it? And what might that be?
Well, in the beginning, their motivation is very important. The ones who come in and say, I do not want to be homosexual, then I know we have a good prognosis. If the kid is basically healthy and motivated and does not like his homosexuality, that's a very good prognosis. That's one variable. The other variable is his ability to make close male friendships and to push out of that anticipatory shame posture. See, when I started this work many years ago, I didn't know what I was dealing with. And the homosexually oriented client would come in and he'd be like self-conscious and sit down, didn't know what I want, blah, 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 blah. And then he'd leave, and then the straight guy would come in, he'd plop down, he'd talk, his problem, he'd get up and leave. Then the next homosexual come in I say, well, there's something about the posture here. There's something, that was called the anticipatory shame posture, because he was traumatized from the rejecting father and the rejecting peers, and in part the rejecting mother. which had to do with his masculinity. See, the masculinity had to be left out of the mother-son equation. So it goes way back. So there's anticipatory shame posture. That sets them up to eroticize. Sets them up to eroticize. Because if you get rid of the eroticization, I just see him as a guy. And we've done this. They'll look at a picture and they'll get an arousal. From 0 to 10, how strong is the arousal? 8. Okay, fine. And we do a technique which I don't want to, it's a therapeutic technique. We bring down the arousal. He looks at the picture, he feels no arousal. Then he starts noticing, oh, look at that guy's expression. He doesn't look very happy. I wonder if they were paying him for taking this picture. I noticed the background. I wonder if that was in his house, or in a motel, or what. See, they go beyond, they make it human. The picture becomes alive. He is a person. See, when you make it a person, you can't make it a sexual object. To make it a sexual object, you have to forget he's a person. That's why you have anonymous sex. Guys will tell me, don't tell me your name. Let's have sex, goodbye. And you get to see, he was a great guy. You get to see him again. Oh no, I don't want to see him again. See, I don't want to make it personal, because if I make it personal, I lose the arousal. That's why gay relationships don't work. They get bored. Because it's, you know, after about a year, first it's Al. Then after about a year, it's Al. Makes all the difference.
We'll take a couple more.
Did I offend Al in the audience? I'm sorry. We don't want you to feel unloved. No.
I have 2 questions.
Always 2 questions.
What is your average length?
The quiet ones finally to come up with 2 questions, all right? She's been holding it all night.
What is your average length of therapy?
About 2 years.
2 years?
2 years or until they run out of money. Now, what was that?
Often adolescents I brought in my parents that I found, and they don't want to be their adolescents. So
Yeah. How do I deal with the adolescent who doesn't want to be there? Yeah. Okay. Now, sometimes, I would say 50% of the teenagers that are brought in by parents want to change. 50% are motivated, and the other 50% do not want to change. So what do we do with the ones who don't want to change? Okay. We say to them, okay, if you don't want to change, then that will not be our therapeutic goal. We're not going to work toward changing you. And they feel relieved. Suspicious still, but relieved. Because they don't know what's coming, right? I say to them, we're not going to try to change, but are you interested in understanding why? Now, some of them will say yes. Because if we start investigating why, then we start to break down the illusion. Because homosexuality is an illusion. So if they begin to realize what's behind it, then that might motivate them to change. Now, if they say, I don't even want to understand why. I'm gay because I'm gay and I don't want to change. So then what do we say? We say, are you willing to work on other problems besides your homosexuality? And a lot of them will say, yes. They'll say, I want to deal with my rejection at school from guys, or I want to deal with my parents. And so we have something to work with, and we could develop an alliance. Then if they say, no, I have no problems, then what do we say? I say, but wait a minute, I'm your problem because you don't want to be here, right? And they go, right. Okay, so let's talk about how I'm a problem to you. Tell me how, well, I'm angry, I don't want to be here. Of course you don't want to be here. Sure, you know, I'm developing a rapport. You see what I'm saying? So we get a foot in the door. You see Jackie Mason, he does a lot of that. It's in New York.
Right here.
You talked a little bit about the failure of male couples.
Right.
Talk a little bit about failure of female couples.
Well, it's interesting because the problem with female couples, lesbian, is they become over-enmeshed. They become over-enmeshed. They become over-identified with each other. And that can become a problem where they lose their identity to the relationship. So that's basically a problem. And there's a lot of domestic violence with lesbians because of the enmeshment, because of the wanting to be separate, wanting to be connected, but wanting to be separate. It's a very, see, it's like an infant-mother relationship. Okay? Yeah.
So when you have a girl
bond with.
Yeah.
And doesn't
Yeah.
bond to other girls.
Yeah.
And by the time you're a toddler, you can see we're going to have
Right.
relationships here,
Right.
and you embrace and celebrate and love and do everything.
Yeah.
What do you do now?
Well, I would wonder, how old is a child?
Almost 22.
Oh my God, well, 22? And she's lesbian? Yeah, pretty much. Does she want to change? That's the problem. That's the problem, because they tend not to want to change. Actually, we have more males that want to change than females. And why that is, I'm not so sure, because with the male it's more of a sexual, impersonal. But with the lesbian it's more relational. And they don't want to give up the relationship. It's difficult.
Do you have anything to say with how that, why so, I mean, at the very beginning?
Yeah. Well, again, again, this is not about blame. Not about, but to understand, were you, or not make it personal, sometimes the mother was going through an emotional crisis when the girl was very young. And the emotional crisis, marital problem or something, where the mother could not maintain that ongoing attunement. She was preoccupied by her problems, so she would tune in, and then a thought would come and she would just disconnect. And then she'd go back to the baby, and then she'd disconnect. And there was this, what they call an insecure attachment. And that left the child feeling unconnected. I don't want to say loved, unconnected. And that need gets fulfilled later on. That's all I can tell you. This is not about blame, I'm just telling you what the pattern is. Because it's an attachment problem. It's an attachment problem, yeah. Yes.
I guess we'll do the last.
Last question. Make it good.
Yeah. Have you seen cases where, I'm thinking specifically of lesbianism because it's so complicated, where people really reject their feminine identity later in life and develop, you know, feelings
More masculine?
towards other women, or reject
Right.
one identity versus the other? And
So in later life they reject their...
I mean, you were talking a lot about infancy.
Right.
And childhood, and then a lot stems from that, but have you seen cases where, you know, in teen years or even in the 20s, where someone shifts from having heterosexual attractions to homosexual attractions because of either events in their life or...
Of course, yeah. You'll actually see that more with lesbian. You'll actually see it. Very rarely do we have our male clients remembering being attracted to girls. Now, in the course of therapy, when they first come in, they don't remember because they repress it. But as they diminish their homosexuality, increase their opposite sex attraction, they begin to spontaneously recall liking little girls when they were kids, which they completely blotted out. See, that goes to what we call the narrative, the story you're telling yourself. That's why the gay identity is so destructive. It's really a psychological hijacking, because the person redefines their history. You have a political ideology superimposed on your personal history, and you remember or not remember depending on what your narrative is today. Like the guy who said, I knew I was gay when I was 7. What was it? Well, I wish I was him. That turns everything around. So you will get a female who around late teens, early 20s will suddenly realize that she is a lesbian. She might have liked guys, but now when she develops a close attachment to a particular woman, it's very intense. It's as if the early attachment was suppressed. The need for that close, deep affection was suppressed. And now in this relationship it comes up. And why she would want to assume more masculine behavior would tell me that she's searching for identity. It's just a search for identity. She thinks she should be this way, or who knows, you know. Maybe she'll get more lesbian. They might be attracted to the masculine type, I don't know. Yeah, okay, so that's it?
That's it, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Okay, thank you.
Well, I want to thank you all for coming. We'll just dismiss. Yeah, give Dr. Nicolosi another hand.